For the longest time, the idea of AI in structural engineering sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie. Well, guess what? The future is now. We're not just talking theory anymore. AI is literally reshaping the world around us, from the bridges you drive over to the skyscrapers that define our cities.
Just think about that for a second. What if a bridge could literally send a message saying, "Hey, I need a checkup"? It sounds like something from a movie, right? But it's not. This is exactly the kind of incredibly important problem AI is helping us solve today. We're turning our silent, passive infrastructure into something that can actually talk to us.
Look, AI isn't just some buzzword or a passing trend here. It's a seriously powerful tool that's changing the whole game for how we design, analyze, and build. At its core, it's all about giving engineers the ability to make sense of huge amounts of data. We're talking smarter decisions, better analysis, and here's the key thing to remember. It's not about replacing engineers. It's about making them even better.
All right, so in this explainer, we're going to break it down into three main parts. First, we'll look at how AI is predicting the future of our structures. Then, we'll dive into something called AI-powered generative design. And finally, we'll touch on how it's enhancing safety and managing risk.
Okay, let's jump right into our first topic, predicting structural futures. This is all about how AI is giving our infrastructure a voice, so to speak. It's a huge shift from waiting for something to break to actually getting ahead of problems.
So the big idea here is something called structural health monitoring. The easiest way to think about it, it's like giving a building or a bridge its own doctor for a 24/7 checkup. We're talking about embedding sensors, think of them like a nervous system, that are constantly feeding real-time data to an AI. And that AI's whole job is to be on the lookout for anything that seems off.
And here's how that process actually works step by step. First, you've got the data collection. These sensors are gathering everything in real time: vibrations, stress, temperature, you name it. Then comes the cool part. The AI gets to work, sifting through this mountain of data, looking for the tiniest little anomalies, the kinds of things a human eye would almost certainly miss. Based on that, the system can actually predict and flag a weak spot before it becomes a disaster. This means engineers can go in and fix it proactively, not reactively. It's a total game changer.
So what's the big payoff here? Well, it's massive. Number one, and this is the most important, it makes things way safer for all of us. But it also means our infrastructure lasts longer, and it saves a ton of money in the long run because we're catching small problems before they become huge, expensive ones. Honestly, it completely changes how we manage the built world.
All right, so we've talked about keeping our existing structures safe. Now let's switch gears and talk about designing new ones. This is where we get into AI-powered generative design, or as I like to call it, the infinite architect.
Think about the traditional way of doing things. An engineer, no matter how brilliant, is still human. They've only got so many hours in the day, right? So they can come up with a handful of really good designs. But what if you weren't limited to a handful? What if you could explore thousands or even tens of thousands of options? That's where AI just blows the doors off the old way of thinking. And this really lays out the difference. With traditional design, you're looking at a few options. It's all on the engineer's shoulders, and it takes a lot of time and resources. Now, look at generative design. It's a completely different beast. You basically tell the AI, here are my goals. I need it to hold this much weight, cost this much, and be made of these materials. Then you hit go, and it spits out thousands of potential designs, all optimized to meet your criteria. It's exploring possibilities at a speed and scale we just can't match.
And the results are pretty stunning. First off, the time savings are just immense. But it's more than that. You end up with structures that are way more efficient, using less material to do the same job. And this is my favorite part. It can come up with designs that are, well, kind of weird, but brilliant. Things a human might never have thought of on their own.
Okay, that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, enhancing safety and risk. This is all about using AI's predictive smarts to keep people safe, from the folks building our structures to the people who use them every day.
So, think of AI as this tireless safety watchdog. On a busy construction site, you can have a system using computer vision, basically AI that can see, to analyze drone footage. It can spot hazards in real time, like someone not wearing a helmet, and flag it instantly. Then, for buildings that are already standing, AI can crunch all sorts of data to simulate what would happen in, say, an earthquake or extreme weather. It's all about seeing danger before it arrives.
And really, that's the ultimate goal here, isn't it? It all comes down to designing and building structures that are just tougher, more resilient, things that can stand up to whatever challenges the future throws at us, keeping people safe.
So,
After all this, we've talked predictive maintenance, crazy generative designs, and advanced safety. You might be wondering, what does this mean for the actual engineers? Well, this isn't a story about replacement. It's about a new kind of partnership.
And I think this quote just hits the nail on the head. AI is not here to replace structural engineers, but to augment our abilities. It's not about machines taking over the job, it's about giving human experts superpowers, tools that let them take their skills, their creativity, and their gut instincts to a whole new level.
So when you put it all together, it's clear. AI is giving us the power to build a better world, a future that's not just safer, but also more efficient and way more sustainable. It's a powerful combination.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. As all this amazing tech stops being new and just becomes a standard part of every engineer's toolkit, what kind of world are we going to build then? It's pretty exciting to think about.